HOA board member saw my disabled daughter sitting on our porch in her wheelchair. She called her an eyesore and started driving her golf cart slowly away. My terrified daughter tried to keep up with her walker, crying and begging to stop. She kept going. My daughter fell hard on concrete, screaming in pain. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. The afternoon sun beat down mercilessly on Willow Creek's manicured lawns as I watched my daughter Emma through the kitchen window. She was sitting on our front porch, her wheelchair positioned carefully in the shade, reading one of her beloved fantasy novels. At 15, Emma had already endured more pain than most people face in a lifetime. A devastating car accident 3 years ago had left her with severe spinal injuries and limited mobility in her legs. Walking was excruciating for her, but with her walker and sheer determination, she could manage short distances. Today was one of her good days, and I had seen her smile twice already. That smile was about to be stolen from her. I was preparing her favorite snack when I heard the high-pitched whine of a golf cart engine. My stomach tightened. I knew that sound. It belonged to Patricia Hendricks, the self-appointed queen of our homeowners association. Patricia was a woman who wielded her HOA position like a weapon, terrorizing neighbors over the smallest infractions. A mailbox 2 inches too far left. A garden gnome she deemed aesthetically inappropriate. A car parked in a driveway facing the wrong direction. But she had never bothered us directly. Until today. I heard Patricia's shrill voice pierce through the peaceful afternoon. "Excuse me. Young lady. You cannot have that wheelchair blocking the sidewalk." My heart stopped. I dropped the apple one was slicing and rushed to the front door. Emma's voice was small, confused. "I'm not blocking anything, ma'am. I'm on my own porch. Don't talk back to me." The HOA bylaws clearly state that no obstructions are permitted within 3 feet of the sidewalk. That includes your medical equipment. I threw open the door, rage already building in my chest. "Patricia, what on earth are you talking about? She's on our property." Patricia turned to me, her face twisted in that superior sneer I had seen her use on countless neighbors. She was a tall woman in her early 60s, with severely pulled back blonde hair and cold blue eyes that seemed to calculate the value of everything they saw. Her golf cart, customized with her initials in gold lettering, hummed behind her. "Your daughter is in violation of Section 12, Paragraph 4 of the Community Guidelines. I'm issuing you a formal warning. She's disabled, Patricia. She's sitting on our own porch. There is no violation here. The rules apply to everyone, no exceptions. I don't care if she's disabled or not. Actually, that wheelchair is an eyesore. Have you considered keeping her inside more often?" The words hit me like physical blows. Emma's face crumpled, and I saw tears beginning to form in her beautiful brown eyes. "How dare you," I said, my voice shaking with fury. "You will not speak about my daughter that way." Patricia waved a dismissive hand. "I'll be back tomorrow to ensure compliance. If that wheelchair is visible from the street, you'll be fined $500. She turned on her heel and climbed back into her golf cart. That's when Emma did something that still haunts me. My brave, determined daughter, who had fought through months of agonizing physical therapy, who had refused to let her disability define her, decided to prove she wasn't an obstruction. She grabbed her walker and pulled herself up, her face tight with pain and determination. "Emma, no, honey, stay seated," I called out, moving toward her. But she was already moving, trying to walk from our porch to prove she didn't need to be there. She wanted to show Patricia she wasn't just a wheelchair, that she was a person. Patricia had started to drive away, but she must have heard the scrape of Emma's walker on the pavement. She stopped the cart and looked back. "Well, if you can walk, then walk," Patricia said coldly. "Prove you're not just being lazy." My blood turned to ice. "Emma, stop. You don't have to prove anything." "But Emma, hurt and desperate to show she was more than Patricia's cruel words suggested, kept moving. She was crying now, tears streaming down her face as she took painful, halting steps with her walker. That's when Patricia did the unthinkable. She put her golf cart in reverse and backed up slightly. Come on then, if you're going to walk, keep up. Let's see how mobile you really are. Patricia, stop this right now. I screamed, running toward them. But Patricia began to drive slowly forward, and Emma, confused and upset, tried to follow, perhaps thinking she needed to move out of the way. Patricia kept going, just slow enough that Emma felt she had to keep moving, but fast enough that my daughter had to push herself beyond her limits. Mom! Emma cried out, her voice breaking. I was running now, my heart exploding in my chest. Stop! Stop the cart! But Patricia didn't stop. She kept going, and Emma, terrified and confused, kept trying to keep up, her walker scraping against the pavement, her legs trembling with the effort. We were on the sidewalk now, and Patricia maintained that cruel, slow pace, looking back occasionally with what I can only describe as satisfaction. Please, Emma sobbed, I can't. I can't keep going. Then you shouldn't have pretended you could walk in the first place, Patricia called back. Emma stumbled. Her left leg gave out completely, and she fell hard onto the concrete sidewalk. The sound of her body hitting the ground will echo in my nightmares forever. Her walker clattered away, and she lay there, crying, unable to get up. I reached her seconds later, dropping to my knees beside her. Baby, I'm here, I've got you. Patricia had stopped the cart and was looking back at us, her face showing something between annoyance and concern, as if she was only now realizing what she had done. She's faking it, Patricia said, but her voice wavered. She was walking fine a moment ago. Get away from us, I said, my voice deadly calm despite the fury burning inside me. Get away before I do something we'll both regret. Emma was shaking in my arms, her skin pale, sweat beading on her forehead. Mom, my legs hurt so bad. Everything hurts. I know, sweetheart. I'm calling an ambulance right now. An ambulance? Patricia scoffed. There's no need to be so dramatic. She just fell. I looked up at her, and whatever she saw in my eyes made her take a step back. You dragged my disabled daughter behind your golf cart. You forced her to walk when she told you she couldn't. You humiliated her, hurt her, and traumatized her. Get off my property before I call the police. I did no such thing. She chose to follow me. I never touched her. Several neighbors had emerged from their homes now, drawn by the commotion. Old Mr. Chen from across the street was already walking over, his phone in his hand. I recorded the whole thing, he said quietly. I saw what you did, Mrs. Hendricks. Patricia's face went white, then red. That girl was violating HOA rules. I was simply enforcing them. You tortured a child, said Mrs. Rodriguez from 2 houses down, her voice shaking with anger. I saw it too. You should be ashamed. The ambulance arrived within minutes. The paramedics were gentle with Emma, carefully checking her legs and back. The fall had caused severe bruising, and they were concerned about potential damage to her healing spine. They loaded her into the ambulance, and I climbed in beside her, holding her hand. I'm sorry, Mom, Emma whispered. I just wanted to show her I wasn't useless. My heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. You have nothing to be sorry for, my love. You are the strongest, bravest person I know. What happened today was not your fault. It was never your fault. At the hospital, the doctors confirmed severe bruising and muscle strain, but thankfully no additional spinal damage. However, the physical trauma had set back her recovery by months. The progress she had made in physical therapy was largely undone. Worse than the physical injuries was the psychological damage. Emma, who had been slowly regaining her confidence, now refused to leave the house. She had nightmares about golf carts. She flinched at loud voices. The next morning, I filed a police report. Mr. Chen provided his video footage, which clearly showed Patricia driving slowly while Emma struggled to keep up behind the cart, crying and begging to stop. It showed Patricia looking back multiple times, fully aware of what she was doing. Other neighbors came forward with their own stories of Patricia's cruelty, though none as severe as what she had done to Emma. The police charged Patricia with child endangerment, reckless endangerment, and assault. The video evidence was damning. Her lawyer tried to argue that Emma had followed voluntarily, but the video clearly showed Patricia's deliberate actions and Emma's distress. The HOA held an emergency meeting. I attended, with Emma beside me in her wheelchair. She didn't want to come, but I told her she needed to see this. She needed to see that what happened to her mattered, that people cared, that justice would be served. The community room was packed. Nearly every resident of Willow Creek had shown up. Patricia sat in the front row with her lawyer, her face a mask of defiance. The HOA president, a kind man named David Martinez, stood at the podium. We're here to address the incident involving Patricia Hendricks and her actions toward Emma Sullivan. I want to first say to Emma and her mother, we are deeply sorry for what happened in our community. This behavior is not reflective of our values. He turned to Patricia. Patricia, you have served on this HOA board for 8 years. In that time, you have enforced rules with an iron fist, often without compassion or common sense. But what you did 4 days ago crossed every line. You endangered a child. You caused physical and emotional harm to a disabled minor. You brought shame to this entire community. Patricia stood up. I was doing my job. That wheelchair was in violation of the community standards, and I have the right to enforce those standards. No, David said firmly. You have the right to issue warnings and fines through proper channels. You do not have the right to terrorize residents. You certainly don't have the right to endanger children. The video evidence shows clearly that you deliberately drove your golf cart at a pace that forced Emma to push herself beyond her physical capabilities, despite her obvious distress and multiple requests to stop. She was faking it, Patricia insisted, her voice rising. These people are always faking it to get sympathy and special treatment. The room erupted in angry shouts. Mr. Chen stood up, his elderly frame shaking with emotion. I watched that girl learn to walk again after her accident. I saw her out there every day with her physical therapist, crying from pain but never giving up. You want to call that faking? You want to call her struggle for independence a lie? You're not just cruel, Mrs. Hendricks. You're evil. Patricia's face twisted with rage. How dare you? I have given years of service to this community. Years of tyranny, you mean, said Mrs. Rodriguez. My daughter was 10 when you made her cry because her sidewalk chalk art was defacing community property. She's 17 now and still remembers how you humiliated her. How many children have you hurt with your cruelty? David held up his hand for silence. The board has voted unanimously. Patricia Hendricks, you are removed from the HOA board effective immediately. Your membership in this association is revoked. You have 30 days to sell your property and vacate the premises. This is within our rights as outlined in the Community Charter, Section 22, which allows for removal of residents who pose a danger to the community. Patricia's mouth fell open. You can't do this. I'll sue. You're welcome to try, David said calmly. But I should inform you that 15 families have already signed a joint lawsuit against you for harassment and emotional distress spanning the last 8 years. The evidence against you is substantial. I felt Emma squeeze my hand. I looked down at her, and for the first time since the incident, I saw a small spark of light in her eyes. Additionally, David continued, the community has voted to establish the Emma Sullivan Accessibility Fund. We'll be making modifications throughout Willow Creek to ensure that residents with disabilities feel welcome and accommodated. Curb cuts, ramps, accessible playground equipment, and smooth pathways. This community should have done this years ago. Tears welled up in my eyes. Emma was crying too, but these were different tears. These were tears of relief, of feeling seen and valued. Patricia stormed out of the meeting, her lawyer hurrying after her. The room broke into applause. After the meeting, neighbors I had barely spoken to came up to us, apologizing for not standing up to Patricia sooner, offering help and support. Mr. Chen knelt down beside Emma's wheelchair. "You're a brave young lady," he said gently. "What happened to you woke this community up. We forgot what matters. You reminded us." Emma smiled through her tears. "Thank you for recording it. Thank you for helping me." "Always," he said, patting her hand. "Always." The criminal case moved forward. Patricia's lawyer tried everything to get the charges dismissed, but the video evidence was irrefutable. In court, I watched Patricia sit stone-faced as the prosecutor played Mr. Chen's video. Emma had chosen not to attend, but she had written a victim impact statement that I read on her behalf. Before that day, I was learning to live with my disability, I read, my voice shaking. I was getting stronger every day. I was starting to feel like myself again. But Mrs. Hendricks made me feel like I was worthless, like my wheelchair made me less than human, like I was something that needed to be hidden away. When she made me walk behind her cart, I thought maybe if I proved I could walk, she would see me as a person. Instead, she hurt me. She set back my recovery by months. She gave me nightmares. She made me afraid to go outside. But worse than the physical pain was feeling like I didn't matter, like my suffering was invisible to her. The statement went on, describing Emma's struggles since the incident, her fears, her setbacks in therapy, her anxiety. When I finished reading, several jurors were wiping their eyes. Patricia's lawyer put her on the stand, and it was a disaster. She showed no remorse, insisting she had done nothing wrong, that Emma had chosen to follow the cart, that disabled people were always seeking special treatment. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all charges. At sentencing, the judge looked at Patricia with open disgust. "Mrs. Hendricks, I have reviewed the evidence in this case extensively. I have watched the video multiple times. What you did to Emma Sullivan was not a momentary lapse in judgment. It was deliberate cruelty. You saw a vulnerable child, and instead of showing compassion, you chose to inflict pain. You have shown no remorse, no understanding of the harm you caused." He sentenced her to 2 years in prison, 3 years probation, and mandated anger management and sensitivity training. Additionally, he ordered her to pay $50,000 in damages to our family for Emma's medical expenses and therapy. Patricia's face went purple with rage. "This is outrageous. I was enforcing community rules. You were abusing a child," the judge said coldly. "Be grateful the sentence isn't longer." As they led Patricia away in handcuffs, she looked back at me with pure hatred. I felt nothing but pity. This woman had spent so much of her life focused on rules and control that she had lost her humanity. And now she would spend years behind bars because of it. The months that followed were hard. Emma struggled with trauma and setback in her physical recovery. We found an excellent therapist who specialized in working with young people dealing with trauma and disability. Slowly, painfully, Emma began to heal. The turning point came 6 months after the incident. The community had finished installing the new accessible pathways and ramps. David Martinez knocked on our door one Saturday morning. "Emma," he said, "we're having a ribbon-cutting ceremony for the new accessible playground. We'd like you to be the one to cut the ribbon. This all happened because of you, because of your courage." Emma looked at me, uncertainty in her eyes. "I don't know if I can, Mom." "You don't have to do anything you're not ready for," I assured her. But I saw something shift in her expression. A spark of the old Emma, the fighter who had pushed through months of excruciating therapy, who had refused to let her accident define her. "I'll do it," she said quietly. The ceremony was beautiful. The whole community turned out. The new playground featured wheelchair-accessible swings, ramps, sensory play areas, and smooth pathways connecting everything. It was designed so that children of all abilities could play together. Emma sat in her wheelchair at the ribbon, large ceremonial scissors in her hands. Her hands were shaking slightly, but her voice was steady as she spoke. "When Mrs. Hendricks hurt me, I felt invisible," Emma said, her voice carrying across the crowd. "I felt like my disability made me less important, like I didn't deserve to take up space in the world. But this community showed me that wasn't true. You showed me that I matter. That kids like me matter. This playground isn't just about ramps and special swings. It's about saying that everyone deserves to play, to be included, to be seen." There wasn't a dry eye in the crowd. Emma cut the ribbon, and children rushed forward to try out the new equipment. I watched as Emma's face lit up with genuine joy for the first time in months as she saw children of all abilities playing together. A little girl in a wheelchair, maybe 7 years old, rolled up to Emma. "Are you Emma? My mom said you're a hero." Emma blinked back tears. "I'm not a hero. I just got hurt, and people helped me." "That's what heroes do," the little girl said matter-of-factly. "They get hurt and keep going. Can you push me on the accessible swing?" Emma looked at me, and I nodded. She transferred from her wheelchair to her walker and, moving slowly but steadily, walked with the little girl to the swings. I watched my daughter, my brave, beautiful daughter, help this child onto the swing and push her gently, both of them laughing. Mr. Chen came to stand beside me. "She's healing." "Yes," I said, wiping my eyes. "She is." "And Patricia?" "She's in prison, where she belongs." "But honestly, Mr. Chen, I don't think about her much anymore. I'd rather focus on this, on the good that came from something horrible." He nodded. "That's wisdom. That's healing." A year later, Emma stood before the city council. Her therapist had helped her find her voice, and she had become an advocate for disability rights. She was proposing a citywide initiative to make all public spaces more accessible. "What happened to me was terrible," she told the council, standing with her walker, her voice strong and clear. "But it taught me something important. Accessibility isn't just about ramps and parking spaces. It's about dignity. It's about saying that people with disabilities deserve to participate fully in society, not as an afterthought, but as equal members of the community." The council approved her initiative unanimously. 3 council members stood to applaud. One of them, a woman with a prosthetic leg, came down from the dais to shake Emma's hand. "You're making a difference," she told Emma. "When I was your age, I thought my disability meant I couldn't do important things. You're proving that wrong for a whole new generation." Emma beamed, and I saw the confident, vibrant young woman she was becoming. The trauma would always be part of her story, but it no longer defined her. She had taken her pain and transformed it into purpose. Patricia was released after serving 18 months, her sentence reduced for good behavior. I heard through the neighborhood gossip chain that she had moved 3 states away, that her husband had divorced her during her incarceration, that she had lost most of her friends and social standing. Part of me wanted to feel satisfaction at her downfall. But mostly I felt sad for her. She had spent so much energy on cruelty and control that she had destroyed her own life. She could have chosen differently at any point. She could have shown compassion, understanding, basic human decency. Instead, she had chosen cruelty, and it had cost her everything. Emma, on the other hand, had chosen differently. She had taken her trauma and used it to help others. She volunteered at a local disability rights organization. She mentored younger kids with disabilities. She spoke at schools about inclusion and accessibility. On the 2-year anniversary of the incident, Emma and I went to the playground. It was a beautiful spring day, and the park was full of children playing. We sat on a bench together, watching kids of all abilities laughing and playing together on the equipment that existed because of Emma's courage. "Mom," Emma said quietly. Yes, sweetheart. I'm glad it happened. I turned to her, shocked. What? Not the trauma part, she clarified quickly. Not the pain or the fear or any of that. But I'm glad I got to be part of something that matters. This playground exists because of what happened to me. The accessibility initiative passed because I spoke up. Kids with disabilities in this city have better lives now because I turned my pain into purpose. She leaned her head on my shoulder. Mrs. Hendricks tried to make me feel worthless. Instead, she showed me how much I matter. How much all of us matter. She tried to silence me, but she gave me a voice instead. I wrapped my arm around my daughter, this remarkable young woman who had survived so much and emerged stronger, kinder, more compassionate than ever. I'm so proud of you, I whispered. Not because of what you survived, but because of who you chose to become. Emma smiled, that beautiful smile that lit up her whole face. I learned it from you, Mom. You never stopped fighting for me. You showed me that love is stronger than cruelty, that kindness is more powerful than control. We sat there together as the sun set, watching children play, listening to their laughter, witnessing the beauty of a community that had learned to value all its members. Patricia Hendricks had tried to hurt us, to diminish us, to make us feel small. Instead, she had sparked a change that would ripple through our community for generations. The golf cart that had dragged my daughter, that symbol of cruelty and abuse, was long gone. In its place was a community built on compassion, inclusion, and the understanding that every person, regardless of ability, deserves dignity and respect. Emma still had hard days. Trauma doesn't heal in a straight line. But she had found meaning in her pain, purpose in her struggle. And she had taught an entire community what true strength looks like. It doesn't look like rigid rules and cruel enforcement. It doesn't look like control and intimidation. True strength looks like a 15-year-old girl in a wheelchair, standing up to prejudice and transforming a community through courage and grace. True strength looks like choosing kindness even after experiencing cruelty, choosing hope even after experiencing trauma. Patricia had her punishment. 2 years stolen, a life destroyed, relationships shattered. But the real victory wasn't in her suffering. The real victory was in the community we built, the changes we made, the lives we touched. Emma taught us all that disabled doesn't mean broken, that different doesn't mean less, that accessibility isn't a special favor but a basic right. And she taught us that from the worst moments of our lives, we can create something beautiful, something meaningful, something that lasts long after the pain fades. That's the legacy of the cart that changed everything. Not the cruelty, but the courage. Not the trauma, but the transformation. Not the hate, but the hope that grew in its place. And every day, as children of all abilities play together in that playground, Emma's message rings out clear and strong: we all deserve to take up space in this world. We all deserve to be seen, to be valued, to be loved. And no golf cart, no cruel HOA president, no amount of prejudice can take that away from us. We are stronger than the hurt. We are bigger than the pain. And we will always, always choose compassion over cruelty, inclusion over exclusion, love over hate. That's Emma's story. That's our victory. And that's a legacy worth fighting for. 3 years after the incident, I received an unexpected letter. The return address showed it was from Patricia Hendricks. My first instinct was to throw it away without reading it, but Emma, now 18 and preparing for college, convinced me to open it. The letter was handwritten, the handwriting shaky and uncertain, so different from the bold, aggressive signature Patricia used to slash across HOA violation notices. Dear Mrs. Sullivan and Emma, it began. I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But my therapist says I need to take accountability, and more than that, I need you to know that I understand now what I did. The letter went on for 3 pages. Patricia described her time in prison, how she had been forced into therapy, how she had spent months refusing to acknowledge any wrongdoing. But slowly, through therapy and the complete destruction of her old life, something had begun to crack in her hardened worldview. "I watched a documentary in prison about children with disabilities," she wrote. "There was a girl who looked like Emma, same age, same determination in her eyes. And I saw her struggle with her wheelchair, saw her pain, saw her courage. And for the first time, I saw her as a person, not as an inconvenience or a violation of aesthetic standards." She described breaking down, finally allowing herself to feel the weight of what she had done. She wrote about nightmares where she saw Emma's face, heard her crying, watched her fall over and over again. "I watched a documentary in prison about children with disabilities," she wrote. "There was a girl who looked like Emma, same age, same determination in her eyes. And I saw her struggle with her wheelchair, saw her pain, saw her courage. And for the first time, I saw her as a person, not as an inconvenience or a violation of aesthetic standards." She described breaking down, finally allowing herself to feel the weight of what she had done. She wrote about nightmares where she saw Emma's face, heard her crying, watched her fall over and over again. She deserved kindness. I failed her, and I will carry that failure for the rest of my life. I finished reading and looked at Emma. Tears were streaming down her face. "What do you want to do with this?" I asked gently. Emma was quiet for a long moment. "I want to write back." "Are you sure?" She nodded. "Mom, I've spent 3 years learning that hurt people hurt people. Mrs. Hendricks was broken in ways I didn't understand. That doesn't excuse what she did. It doesn't make it okay. But I think I need to tell her that I'm okay, that she didn't destroy me, that I'm going to college to study disability rights law and that what she did actually gave me purpose." 2 weeks later, Emma sent her response. She didn't forgive Patricia, she explained in her letter, because forgiveness wasn't something Patricia had earned or deserved. But she released the anger, released the hold that Patricia's cruelty had on her heart. "You tried to make me small," Emma wrote. "Instead, you showed me how big I could become. You tried to silence me. Instead, you gave me a voice that reaches thousands. You tried to hurt me. Instead, you taught me the power of turning pain into purpose. I'm not grateful for what you did. But I'm grateful for who I became in spite of it." Patricia never wrote back, and we never heard from her again. But that was okay. The exchange had been for Emma's healing, not for building a relationship with her abuser. Emma graduated high school with honors and a full scholarship to study law. At her graduation, she gave a speech that brought the entire auditorium to tears. "For years ago, someone tried to convince me I was worthless," she said, gripping the podium, standing without her walker for the first time in years. Her legs were stronger now, though she still used her wheelchair for longer distances. "Someone tried to make me believe that my disability made me less than human, that I didn't deserve to take up space in the world." She paused, looking out at the crowd. That person was wrong. And every single day since then, I've worked to prove how wrong she was. Not to her. Not for her. But for every kid with a disability who has ever been made to feel invisible. For every child who has been told they're an inconvenience, an eyesore, a problem to be hidden away. The crowd erupted in applause. Emma smiled, that radiant smile that had returned gradually over the years. "We are not problems. We are people. We are not inspirations simply for existing. We are complex human beings with dreams and fears and hopes just like everyone else. And we deserve a world that sees us, values us, and includes us, not as an afterthought, but as an integral part of the community." In the audience, Mr. Chen was crying openly. Mrs. Rodriguez was holding her teenage daughter close. David Martinez was standing, applauding, his face full of pride. The community that had once allowed Patricia's cruelty to flourish unchecked had transformed into a place where Emma felt celebrated, valued, and loved. That summer, before Emma left for college, the city unveiled a new monument in the park. It was a bronze statue of a young girl in a wheelchair, her face turned upward, her expression full of determination and hope. At the base were the words, "Every person matters." Every voice counts. Every dream deserves space. The dedication ceremony was massive. News crews came from 3 states away. Emma's story had spread far beyond our small community, inspiring legislative changes, accessibility initiatives, and anti-bullying programs across the country. As Emma sat in her wheelchair beside the statue, cameras flashing, reporters asking questions, I saw the complete transformation from that terrified 15-year-old being dragged behind a golf cart to this confident, powerful young woman who had changed the world around her. A reporter asked her, "Do you ever think about Patricia Hendricks? Do you hate her for what she did?" Emma considered the question carefully. "I don't hate her. Hate takes energy that I'd rather use to build something good. Mrs. Hendricks was a deeply unhappy person who hurt me because she was hurting. What she did was wrong, and she deserved the consequences she faced. But I've learned that the best revenge isn't hatred. It's healing. It's taking the worst thing that ever happened to you and using it to make the world better." She smiled at the camera. Mrs. Hendricks tried to drag me down. Instead, she pushed me forward. And I'm going to keep moving forward, keep fighting for accessibility and inclusion, for the rest of my life. That's my choice. That's my power. And no one can ever take that away from me. That night, as we drove home from the ceremony, Emma was quiet. I glanced over at her, seeing her silhouetted against the streetlights. "Penny, for your thoughts?" I asked. "I was just thinking about that day," she said softly. "The day with the golf cart. How terrified I was. How much it hurt. How I thought my life was over." She turned to me, her eyes bright. "I thought that day would define me forever. That I'd always be the girl who got hurt, who got dragged, who fell. But that's not who I am. I'm the girl who got up. Who fought back. Who turned tragedy into triumph. You're the girl who changed the world," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "We changed the world, Mom. Together. You never gave up on me. You fought for me when I couldn't fight for myself. You showed me what real strength looks like." We pulled into our driveway, and Emma looked at our house, at the ramp we'd installed, at the accessible pathway leading to our front door. Everything that had changed because of one terrible afternoon. "The golf cart is gone," she said. "Patricia is gone. The pain is fading. But what we built, what we created, that's forever. That's real. That's what matters." She was right. The community we built, the laws we changed, the hearts we touched, those would last long after we were gone. Emma's courage, her resilience, her choice to transform pain into purpose, that would inspire generations. As we sat there in the darkness, I realized that the story didn't end with justice or revenge or punishment. It ended with hope. With healing. With the understanding that we are all more than the worst things that happen to us, more than the cruelty we endure, more than the pain we carry. We are what we choose to become in spite of it all. And Emma chose to become extraordinary. Years from now, when Emma is a successful disability rights lawyer, when she's helped pass laws that protect vulnerable people, when she's changed countless lives, people will ask her about the golf cart incident. They'll want to know how she survived it, how she overcame it, how she turned such darkness into light. And she'll tell them the truth. That it wasn't easy. That some days she still has nightmares. That trauma doesn't just disappear because you accomplish great things. But she'll also tell them that she refused to let one cruel person's actions define her entire existence. She'll tell them about the community that rallied around her, about the neighbor who recorded the evidence, about the people who stood up when it mattered most. She'll tell them that healing isn't a destination but a journey, and that every single day she chooses hope over bitterness, purpose over victimhood, love over hate. And somewhere, perhaps, Patricia will hear about Emma's successes. Maybe she'll feel the weight of what she destroyed in herself by trying to destroy a child. Maybe she'll understand that the girl she tried to break became unbreakable. That's the real ending. Not revenge. Not even justice. But the simple, powerful truth that kindness will always outlast cruelty, that love will always defeat hate, and that one brave girl in a wheelchair can change the entire world.